Why is it that the people we feel most drawn to are often the ones who give us the least? Why does our heart race for those who are distant, inconsistent, or emotionally unavailable, while steady, present love can feel dull, unfamiliar, even unsafe? This is not bad luck, it's not low standards, and it's certainly not because you love too much. The real reason lies much deeper, beneath personality, beneath chemistry, beneath choice. It lives in the nervous system. It lives in memory. It lives in wounds that learn how to survive long before you learn how to love. We are not attracted to what is healthy. We are attracted to what is familiar. If emotional unavailability feels magnetic, it's often because your nervous system learned early that love came with distance, unpredictability, or silence. Perhaps care was inconsistent. Perhaps affection had conditions. Perhaps you had to earn attention by being good, quiet, strong, or invisible. As a child, you adapted. You didn't ask, is this love good for me? You asked, how do I stay connected? And that adaptation worked. It kept you attached. It kept you alive emotionally. But the body remembers. So years later, when someone is emotionally distant, your system lights up, not because they are right for you, but because your body recognizes the terrain. The longing feels like love. The anxiety feels like chemistry. The chase feels meaningful. Emotionally unavailable partners often recreate an old emotional contract. If I try harder, maybe this time I'll be chosen. And unconsciously, we are not trying to win them. We are trying to heal the past. But here's the painful truth. You cannot heal childhood wounds by reenacting them. The part of you that keeps choosing unavailable partners is not broken, it is loyal. Loyal to a story where love required endurance, self-abandonment, and patience without reciprocity. Real intimacy can feel threatening when you were never taught that closeness could be safe. Availability can feel boring when chaos once meant connection, and consistency can feel unfamiliar when love was intermittent. This is why walking away feels harder than staying. This is why you excuse what hurts you. This is why you confuse longing with depth. Healing does not begin by choosing different partners. It begins by understanding why your body equates absence with love. When you learn to offer yourself the attunement you missed, when you stop abandoning your own feelings for connection, your attraction shifts naturally, not forcefully, not through willpower, but through safety. And one day, emotional availability won't feel dull, it will feel peaceful, and peace will no longer feel like emptiness. Attraction is driven by familiarity, not health. We are drawn to what our nervous system recognizes, even if it hurts. Attraction is not a conscious decision. It is not a checklist. It is not the rational mind scanning for kindness, stability, or emotional safety. Attraction happens in the body first, long before thought arrives. It is a felt sense, an instant recognition that says this feels right, even when it hurts. What we call chemistry is often memory. The nervous system does not ask whether something is good for us. It asks whether something is known. And what is known feels safe, not because it nurtures us, but because it is predictable. Familiarity offers orientation. It tells the body, I know how to survive here. If love in early life was inconsistent, emotionally distant, or conditional, then the body learned to associate closeness with uncertainty. Warmth came and went. Attention had to be earned. Affection arrived in fragments. And the child adapted not by rejecting love, but by reshaping themselves to stay connected. That adaptation becomes embedded. It lives in muscle tension, in breathing patterns, in the way the heart accelerates when someone pulls away. Years later, when a partner is unavailable, the body responds with urgency. There is a charge, a pull, a sense of importance. Not because the situation is nourishing, but because it matches an old emotional landscape. Healthy love can feel strangely flat in comparison. Presence may register as unfamiliar. Consistency may feel suspicious. Emotional openness may even provoke anxiety because it does not match the internal map. The system asks, where is the effort? Where is the uncertainty? Where is the tension that tells me this is real? So attraction becomes less about desire and more about recognition. We are not drawn to people, we are drawn to states. States of longing, waiting, hoping, probing. States we once inhabited as children trying to maintain attachment. This is why logic fails in matters of the heart. You can know someone is wrong for you and still feel magnetized. You can recognize the pattern and still repeat it. Because the body is not seeking happiness, it is seeking coherence with its past. and there is no blame here. The system did exactly what it needed to do. Familiarity was once the only available form of safety. But what kept you connected then may keep you trapped now? Healing begins not by forcing yourself to want something different, but by gently questioning the internal definition of love, by noticing when excitement is actually anxiety, when intensity is actually fear of loss, when attraction is actually a call from an unhealed place asking to be seen. As the nervous system learns new experiences of safety, slowly, patiently, what feels familiar begins to change, and with that change, attraction shifts, not because you tried harder, but because your body no longer mistakes survival for love. Emotionally unavailable partners mirror early attachment wounds. Emotionally unavailable partners do not enter our lives by accident. They arrive carrying a familiar emotional atmosphere, one the body recognizes before the mind has time to intervene. There is often a subtle sense of home in the distance they maintain, in the inconsistency they offer, in the way closeness is hinted at but never fully given. And that sense of home is not about comfort, it is about memory. Early attachment teaches us not what love should feel like, but what love does feel like. If care in childhood was limited, distracted, overwhelmed, or conditional, the child did not experience emotional absence as rejection. They experienced it as reality. The bond still mattered. The need for connection remained absolute. So the child learned to relate within the limits that were available. Perhaps the parent was physically present, but emotionally preoccupied. Perhaps affection appeared only when the child performed well, stayed quiet, or took care of others. Perhaps the parent was loving at times and unreachable at others. In each case, the child internalized an unspoken lesson: closeness is uncertain, connection requires adaptation. That lesson does not disappear with age. It becomes encoded as an attachment template, a felt expectation of how relationships work. Later in life, emotionally unavailable partners fit that template precisely. They recreate the same emotional distance, the same ambiguity, the same hope that this time, if you are patient enough, understanding enough, or self-sacrificing enough, the bond will finally stabilize. The attraction is not to the person themselves, but to the unfinished emotional business they represent. Unavailable partners unconsciously offer a second chance at an old story, the chance to be seen, chosen, and emotionally met in a way that did not fully happen before. The relationship becomes a stage where the nervous system attempts resolution. This is why the pull can feel so strong even in the absence of real intimacy. The system is activated, alert, invested. Longing becomes proof of importance. Effort becomes proof of love. The emotional distance keeps the attachment wound open, and the open wound keeps the connection alive. In contrast, partners who are emotionally present may not activate the same depth of feeling. They do not provoke the old vigilance. They do not trigger the familiar longing, and so they may feel less compelling, not because they are lacking, but because they do not mirror the original wound. This pattern is often misunderstood as poor choice or self-sabotage. In truth, it is loyalty. Loyalty to the child who learned how to love within constraint. Loyalty to a nervous system that equates connection with endurance. Healing does not mean rejecting that child or that loyalty. It means recognizing that the strategy no longer serves the adult. When the original wound is acknowledged, when the grief of unmet emotional needs is allowed, relationships no longer have to reenact the past in order to feel meaningful. As those early attachment wounds soften, the mirror loses its power. Emotional availability stops feeling foreign. Presence no longer feels suspicious, and love begins to be chosen not for its resemblance to pain, but for its capacity to offer safety, reciprocity, and rest. The chase is an attempt to heal the past. We unconsciously seek resolution, not the person themselves. The chase is rarely about the person in front of you. It is about a history that never found resolution. When someone is emotionally unavailable, something ancient inside awakens, not desire alone, but urgency. A sense that this matters, that this must not be lost. The nervous system moves into pursuit long before the conscious mind understands why. What looks like passion is often unfinished business. When early relationships left emotional needs unmet, the child did not have the option to walk away. Dependence was total, so instead of leaving, the child learned to pursue connection internally by becoming more attentive, more pleasing, more patient, more self-erasing. Hope became the lifeline. If I try harder, maybe this time love will stay. That hope never dies on its own. It waits in adulthood. Emotionally distant partners activate that same internal stance. Their inconsistency creates a familiar tension, closeness followed by withdrawal. And with it comes a powerful illusion, the idea that if you can just say the right thing, love the right way, endure a little longer, something old will finally be repaired. The chase becomes a silent mission to rewrite history. Each unanswered message echoes an early absence. Each emotional withdrawal reopens a childhood question: what did I do wrong? What do I need to become to be chosen? The adult relationship collapses into a child's longing, not consciously, but somatically. The body reacts as if survival is at stake. This is why walking away feels unbearable, even when staying is painful. Leaving would mean facing the original loss. It would mean accepting that the love once needed did not fully arrive. The chase keeps hope alive. Hope delays grief, and so the relationship becomes less about intimacy and more about persistence. The emotional labor intensifies. Boundaries soften. Self-respect erodes quietly, all in service of a belief that this time effort will be rewarded. But the past cannot be healed by repetition. No amount of chasing can give a child what was missing then, and no unavailable partner can supply what they do not possess now. The nervous system may seek resolution, but it keeps choosing environments that recreate the wound instead of soothing it. This is not weakness. It is fidelity to the child who learned that connection required striving, to the part of you that still believes love must be earned through endurance. Healing begins when the chase is seen for what it is, not romance, but remembrance. When the longing is met with compassion instead of action. When the question shifts from how do I make them stay to what am I still trying to heal. Only then can the energy of pursuit turn inward, toward grief, toward truth, toward self-connection. And when the past is finally acknowledged, the chase loses its urgency. Love no longer needs to be won. It becomes something that can be received without pursuit, without proving, without losing oneself in the process. This pattern is adaptive, not a flaw. What we often call a pattern in relationships is usually spoken about with shame, as if repeating the same emotional dynamic means there is something defective, something broken, something wrong at the core of who you are. But this way of seeing misses the truth entirely. These patterns did not emerge from weakness. Can they emerge from intelligence? They are adaptations. At a time when you had very little power and even fewer choices, your nervous system learned how to survive emotionally. It studied the environment closely. It learned what brought closeness and what caused distance. It learned when to speak, when to stay quiet, when to soften, when to disappear. These were not conscious decisions. They were instinctive responses shaped by necessity. If love was unpredictable, you learned vigilance. If affection was conditional, you learned performance. If emotional presence was rare, you learned patience and endurance. These strategies kept you connected to the people you depended on. And connection, for a child, is not a luxury, it is survival. So when those same strategies appear in adult relationships, they are not evidence of dysfunction, they are evidence of loyalty to a system that once kept you safe. The part of you that tolerates emotional distance, that overgives, that stays longer than is healthy, is not self-sabotaging. It is following a rule that once made sense: don't risk the bond. The tragedy is not that the pattern exists. The tragedy is that it has not been updated. The nervous system does not automatically know that circumstances have changed. It does not know that you are no longer small, dependent, or powerless. It still responds as if loss would be catastrophic, as if disconnection would be unbearable. So it repeats what worked before, even when it no longer serves. This is why insight alone is not enough. You can understand the pattern intellectually and still feel pulled by it emotionally, because the pattern lies below thought in sensation and reflex. It is not asking to be judged or eliminated. It is asking to be understood. When you meet this part of yourself with criticism, the system tightens. Shame reinforces the belief that something is wrong, which only deepens the attachment to familiar pain. But when you meet it with compassion, something different becomes possible. The body begins to feel safe enough to change. Healing is not about erasing the adaptation. It is about honoring it and gently teaching it that it is no longer needed, that you can now choose connection without self-abandonment. That closeness no longer requires suffering. That love does not have to be maintained through endurance. When this realization lands, not just in the mind, but in the body, the pattern begins to loosen on its own. Not because you forced it to stop, but because the system finally learns that what once protected you is no longer required for you to belong. And in that moment, the story shifts. You are no longer someone who is bad at relationships. You are someone whose nervous system did exactly what it needed to do until it was safe enough to do something new. Healing changes attraction naturally. When safety replaces self-abandonment, desire shifts toward availability. Healing does not begin with forcing yourself to want something different. It does not begin with better rules, stricter boundaries, or convincing the mind to override desire. Real healing happens at a deeper level, where attraction is formed in the first place, within the nervous system, within the emotional memory of what feels safe. As long as old wounds remain unacknowledged, attraction is shaped by protection. The body scans for what it knows how to manage. It moves toward familiar tension, familiar longing, familiar uncertainty, because those states once had meaning. They once organized the world. They once kept connection possible. Desire, in this context, is not about pleasure, it is about survival. When healing begins, something subtle but profound shifts. The body is slowly introduced to experiences it did not have before. Being heard without performing, and being close without bracing, being valued without earning. These experiences may feel unfamiliar at first, even uncomfortable. Safety can feel empty when chaos once meant connection. Calm can feel dull when intensity once signaled importance. This is why healing often feels like disorientation before it feels like relief. The old signals no longer carry the same charge, but the new ones have not yet been learned. The nervous system is in transition, recalibrating what it recognizes as love. As unprocessed grief is allowed, grief for what was missing, for what never arrived, the need to recreate the past diminishes. The body no longer needs to chase absence in order to feel alive. The old attraction loses its urgency, not because you suppressed it, but because it no longer serves a purpose. At the same time, new qualities begin to register. Presence becomes noticeable. Emotional availability begins to feel grounding instead of suspicious. Consistency stops feeling boring and starts feeling regulating. These are not intellectual preferences, they are somatic recognitions. The body begins to relax in the presence of what once felt foreign. This is the quiet miracle of healing. Desire reorganizes itself. You do not wake up one day and decide to be attracted to healthier partners. You simply notice that the old dynamics no longer hold you. The chemistry that once felt irresistible now feels draining. The chase that once felt meaningful now feels heavy. And what once felt invisible, gentleness, reliability, emotional openness, begins to glow. The shift is not a moral achievement. It is a physiological one. The nervous system has learned that it no longer needs to confuse intensity with intimacy or longing with love. It has learned that safety does not mean loss of self, and closeness does not require sacrifice. When this happens, attraction becomes less about repetition and more about resonance, less about proving and more about presence, less about survival and more about connection. Healing does not make love less passionate, it makes it less painful. And in that painlessness, something deeper becomes possible, a form of intimacy that does not consume you, but allows you to rest, to be seen, and to remain whole. Healing does not end with finding the right person. It ends with becoming the place where you no longer abandon yourself. When that happens, attraction is no longer a force that pulls you into familiar pain, but a quiet signal guiding you toward what can actually hold you. You may still feel echoes of the old pull. Memory does not vanish overnight, but it no longer has authority. What once felt irresistible begins to feel misaligned. What once required effort begins to feel unnecessary. And slowly, almost without noticing, you stop asking why love hurts so much. You stop mistaking longing for depth. You stop chasing what withholds. What remains is not fireworks, but something far more radical: ease. A relationship where your body can breathe, your heart does not have to brace, and your presence is enough. That is not settling, that is arriving. And when love finally meets you there, it will not feel like a struggle to be chosen. It will feel like recognition without pain, without proving, without losing yourself.